All right, hello everybody. Welcome to Kickstarter, and thank you for joining us tonight. So tonight we're going to talk about building a business on Kickstarter, specifically focusing on designers and entrepreneurs who are building design-focused products. So I'm going to start just with a quick presentation, and it's going to last about 5 to 10 minutes. Then I'm going to invite our guests up here with me. We're going to have a conversation for about half hour, 40 minutes, and then I'm going to open it up to questions. So, I'm sure some of you have questions already, or as we kind of talk through the experience that these three creators have had, think about what you'd like to ask them, because this is an awesome opportunity for you to learn from their successes and failures. So a little bit about Kickstarter. I think, how many of you have backed a Kickstarter project? All right, I thought there'd be a lot of you, so that's great. So you guys know what Kickstarter is all about. It's really a place where we celebrate creativity of all shapes and sizes. It's a place where people come to create stuff to share with others. There are many different types of projects that we embrace on Kickstarter. Everything from art, comics, film, publishing, food. But tonight we're really here to talk about design, and that's what we're going to focus on. So, the design category in Kickstarter is amazing. I mean, there's just a real vibrant community creating amazing stuff. And so just to get a sense of, in the audience, what types of designers we have here, how many of you are industrial designers? What about graphic designers? Architects? Awesome. And what about just entrepreneurs that enjoy also design? Okay, awesome. So that's great. So you guys are all in the right place, and I think a lot of the things that you'll learn here will really apply across the board, for people who are trying to use Kickstarter as a way to not just do a one-off project, but also as a way to have another kind of tool in your tool set to bring products and ideas to the market. So I say that Kickstarter is a vibrant ecosystem for projects, and I think the best way to kind of understand that is just looking at some of the projects that have been funded on the site or are currently funding, for the last couple of months. So just a few examples. I mean, this project here is an awesome project. It's from a studio out in Portland, where they actually created a beer glass with Mount Hood on the bottom. So it really is like a quintessential Portland project. This, on the other hand, is more of a quintessential New York project because some designers from Pentagram actually brought back to life the standards manual that really outlines all the graphic standards for the MTA here in New York City. So all those signs that you see on the subway, probably sometimes too many times, all the graphic standards that governs those were written up in this book that was just recently republished earlier this year. This project here is an awesome font that's actually currently live, where it's really a font that recreates the handwriting of Albert Einstein. And it's a pretty awesome project. Each character that they're creating, there's actually 4 variations of each character. So as you type, it actually gives more of that handwriting feel. And the designer who did this project, who's based in Frankfurt, he just has like a real deep passion and fascination for people's handwritings. And so this is part of an outcome of his studies into the intricacies of the handwriting of famous people. And he's done a project already with the handwriting of Freud. And the last project that I just wanted to share is this is an awesome project done by an American artist that's actually based in Stockholm. And this is a guy who's been working on making stuff levitate for many years. So he usually makes soccer balls, skateboards levitate. And in the last year and a half, he had been working on making an actual functional light bulb levitate. And rather than just have it as an object in his studio, he's decided to bring it to life. And put it out there in the world. And it seems like a lot of people are really excited about what he's doing because he's raised over $500,000 from about 1,800 people. So, what are the numbers behind these kind of beautiful stories? There's been over 4,500 successful design projects on Kickstarter to date, and those projects have raised a little bit over $280 million, and there's been over 1.5 million people that have backed those projects. So that's pretty amazing. I mean, that's 1.5 million people that wanted to support other designers who were creating cool stuff. And this community continues to grow. But So this kind of gives a general landscape of design on Kickstarter. But again, we're here really to focus on building a business, being a designer and wanting to build a business. So let me tell you a little story about one of, a group of designers that we like a studio that we like very much here on Kickstarter. And Tom and Dan are the creators of this product right here, and this is called the Glyph. This product started when Tom and Dan, they were avid iPhone photographers. This was around 2010, and they envisioned, creating a device that would allow them to attach their iPhone to a camera tripod. This device didn't exist yet, so they created a 3D printed prototype of this device, and they wanted to see if other people were interested in having a product like this. So they put up a project on Kickstarter to bring this to life. At this point in time in 2010, there really were not any design projects of this type on Kickstarter. So after raising $130,000 on Kickstarter, they really established Kickstarter as a platform where you could launch products and not just raise money for a film or raise money for an illustration. So again, really awesome moment, of course for Dan and Tom and also for us. But it didn't stop there. So what Dan and Tom, which now they're referred to as Studio Neat, they didn't just launch one project. They ended up going on to launching 4 other projects. These are 3 of those projects. So they created a stylus for iPads. They created a ice kit that lets you make clear ice. And they also created a simple syrup kit. So obviously, Tom and Dan were drinking a lot throughout this whole process. But besides that, they also then helped establish Kickstarter not just as a platform to run one project, but as a platform where people could build businesses. And here is the 2 of them. And again, they were one of the first creators to really kind of see this potential, but they are definitely not the only ones and definitely not the last. This is just kind of a snapshot of a small number of the creators who have now gone on to use Kickstarter as a launch platform for multiple projects, and many of these as a core strategy in their business. Actually, an interesting fact, about 12% of creators on Kickstarter have launched more than one project. I mean, that's a general stat. Those are not all people who are running businesses, but it just goes to show that it is a really awesome way to bring things to life. And these people here, or these companies here, they're doing projects of different sizes, different scales, and different types. One of the things from talking to a lot of these creators is that they use Kickstarter for a lot more reasons than just raising money. They use it to build community. They use it to validate demand for something that they're creating. They use it to hone the story that they're using to bring their product to life. And all the while, many of these creators also use it as a way to maintain creative independence so that they can kind of really figure out what their next step is or what their next product is. So that kind of gives you a little bit of the lay of the land. What I'm going to do now is just tell you a little bit about the 3 guests that are joining me here tonight, and then I'll have them come up on stage and we'll get started with the conversation. So first off, we have Kit Hickey from an awesome company called Ministry of Supply. And Ministry of Supply is this fashion company that creates high-performance professional attire that just looks great. And so what I'm going to do is just show you, a little video, a little excerpt of their video from their project, their first project that launched in 2012.
A typical workday morning. The commute, the summer heat. You walk into the office sweating, and it shows. Your body needs to adapt. Your current dress shirt just doesn't help. At Ministry of Supply, we're changing that. We're excited to launch the Apollo dress shirt. It's simply the most comfortable dress shirt you'll ever wear. To design the perfect shirt, we started from scratch. We needed something completely new. A high-performance fabric that dynamically adapts to your active lifestyle. So we went to the labs. As MIT engineers, we designed spacesuits that regulate astronauts' body temperature using what's called a phase change material. We used that same technology in the blend that became Apollo.
All right, so that's Ministry of Supply. Next up, we have Matt Kroehner from Fire and Bone. And Matt is one of the 3 creators of these beautiful, true-to-life jewelry collectibles that are designed using real animal skulls. So I don't know if you guys ever seen these, but when you've seen them in person, they're really, really magical.
Fire and Bone combines cutting-edge technology and traditional casting techniques to produce incredibly detailed and accurate animal skull reproductions that can be both collected and worn. These are specimens that can be studied and examined close up. They're tiny museum pieces that you can touch and turn over in your hands and learn something about the animal.
Basically, we make amazing jewelry and collectibles from real animal skulls.
What's exciting and new about these skulls is how accurately the original large skulls are reproduced in miniature.
So, Fire and Bone. Lastly, we have David Weiner from Priority Bikes. And Priority Bikes is a company that's really on a mission to make biking easier by taking the stress out of buying a bike, but also owning and most importantly, maintaining a bike. So they have these really awesome low maintenance bicycles.
Friends always ask me, what bike should they buy? And all too often, when I asked them about their needs, they were basic, and their budget was too. The problem I found, time and time again, was that there were no good bikes for me to recommend. So I set out to design a bike that's maintenance-free, is really well made, yet affordable, so that everybody could enjoy it. And that's why we started Priority.
All right, so that's a brief introduction of the three guests that will be joining me on stage, and now we'll move into the conversation part of the night. Thank you. So I think from the video you guys know that this is David, and that's Kit over there and Matt at the end. So thank you all three of you for joining me. It's I'm a fan of all of your projects, and I invited you all here because you do have all a unique story, and your companies and the creative product that you make differ in a substantial way. I wanted to just start by asking each of you to talk a little bit about where your company came from, where the inspiration came from, and just kind of the missions and the value that are core to what you're doing. So why don't we just start here and go around?
Right on. So again, I'm Dave Weiner from Priority Bicycles. I guess we just ended seeing me. So you all know who I am. So Priority Bicycles really started as a passion project for me. I'd worked in software for many years, but before that, I really grew up working in bike shops, racing bikes, being really close with bikes. And I'd always dreamed of owning my own bike shop. As I grew older, I wound up working in software and had a great career there, but wanted to get back to my passion of bicycles. And also as I grew older, I realized that not everyone needed a race bike with carbon fiber and dual suspension and all the crazy stuff that comes out of the bike industry today. So I wanted to take my knowledge of bicycles and also my knowledge of supply chain and technology and design a bike that was just far simpler than anything else that was in market. And so our mission is to make cycling easier, and our bicycles are free from routine maintenance. We think they have a beautiful design and a great style about them, and they're actually out in the gallery right now, so hopefully you all take a look and agree. And we also sell them in a model that's rather new to the bike industry and makes them really affordable. So our goals are making cycling easier and more accessible with high quality, maintenance-free, affordable bicycles.
Hi everyone, my name is Kit Hickey with Ministry of Supply, and I'm really, really, really excited to be here because Kickstarter's played such a tremendous role in kind of our company, and it truly wouldn't be where we are without Kickstarter, so thank you. At Ministry of Supply, we are a group of engineers and athletes who had kind of been growing up and wearing performance clothing. So we were wearing North Face, Lululemon, hiking, and being in the mountains, and then kind of going to work on Mondays and realizing this doesn't make sense because our business clothing gets wrinkled, it doesn't feel good, it doesn't make you feel confident, doesn't make you feel prepared. And we really thought that you should feel your most confident, your most prepared at work, where you are most of your days and hours, and where you really should be prepared. So we met at MIT and really wanted to change that. So we develop all the fabrics in our clothing. We do menswear for now, and then use advanced manufacturing so that your business clothing can be as functional and as comfortable as your athletic clothing and make you feel as prepared. So our mission is really inventing apparel, and design and technology both play a huge role into everything we do.
I'm Matt Kroehner. I'm with Fire and Bone. Fire and Bone is myself and Chris Boynton and Jason Bakutis. And what we do is we make miniature animal skull replicas. And to make them, we use cool technologies like 3D printing and 3D scanning. So I guess our mission is to kind of use these technologies to make a cool product that's true to nature. And we kind of started out as lovers of making things, and we actually met while working at the same 3D printing company. So we have the shared interest in these technologies and nature, and we came up with what we thought was an interesting product, and we decided to use Kickstarter to launch our product. And from there, we were able to start a little business with it.
And Matt, just let's continue with you for a second, just because the next part that I want to talk about is really a little bit like what I know you all launched your first products on Kickstarter. What led you to decide that Kickstarter was the right route for you?
So honestly, I think we kind of all, in discussing our product, we also did a lot of research on how other people were launching products. And we launched in about a year and a half ago in 2013. So we had seen a lot of successful Kickstarters. And honestly, we were just like, let's do something cool. This seems obtainable to us. We felt like we had the expertise and the ability to create a nice presentation to use Kickstarter, and we just thought we could be successful the way that others had been successful. So it almost was a little bit of envy in seeing other people be successful and wanting to recreate that our own way, I guess.
Awesome. And Kit, what about for you? I mean, I know we've talked about you guys had already kind of started making a very small batch of shirts, and this was kind of a way to take it to the next level. But can you talk about the decisions that went into choosing this route?
Yeah, so we got started in 2011 and had been manufacturing really small batches at our manufacturer in New York, just manufacturing like 30 to 100, had been selling them, getting feedback, and producing more. And we kind of realized, like, wow, this is something that people are really interested in. It's something that we want to kind of scale and devote our time to. So we went out and to try to raise angel money. And they always say that the hardest time to raise money is like when you have a little bit of revenue, because people said to us, oh, that's great, like, glad you could sell some, but come back to us when you show that you can sell a lot. And as a product company, we obviously couldn't sell more until we had more money, but we couldn't get money until we sold more. So we were kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place, and a lot of people had mentioned Kickstarter, so we took a look at it, and it was just a phenomenal way for us to be able to get the money up front, take pre-orders, and then also it was really good timing because we launched our Kickstarter kind of in the summer, in between school years, and it was also a great way for us to like validate the idea, so figure out, wow, this is something that like the MIT community likes and our friends and family seem to buy, but if we put it out in the larger world, is it something that would resonate with others?
Dave, what about you?
I think really, really similar stories. I first got turned on to Kickstarter a couple years earlier. I'd written the business plan for Priority because it was one of those weekends where I was fed up with what I was doing, and so I sat down because I'd had this idea for years, and so I wrote it all out and I sent it to a couple friends, and one of my friends said to me, you ought to see this really cool website called Kickstarter. This is probably 2012-ish, and so I hadn't even heard of Kickstarter. I looked it up. Of course, over the years, I backed a couple of projects, and then when I finally decided it was time, to launch the business, it was, well, gee, to really produce bikes, I need hundreds of thousands of dollars, and I think I have a good idea, and some of my friends think I have a good idea, but is it really a good idea? And before I put a second mortgage out on my home, should I be doing this or should I go back to software? And so it was really going out to the market and saying, hey, do you think it's a good idea, Kickstarter community? And if so, will you help me bring it to life? And of course, the response was overwhelming, and we've started a business because of it. And we're very, very thankful to the Kickstarter community for giving us that opportunity and validating the idea and helping us start the business. But it was no doubt the right way for us to start the business and to also build a great community who we now count on.
And I mean, I know that talking to a lot of creators, I mean, that the first campaign, the question comes up a lot. How do how did you get the word out there about what you were doing? How did you get people interested and even knowing that you were running this project? Let's start with you, David. Like, how were you able to kind of really drive that interest and get?
Yeah, so I started by, I really had no first degree connections that had run Kickstarters, but I found through my friends a lot of second degree connections. So I interviewed a lot of people. And I probably spent 6 weeks interviewing 10 different Kickstarters and just trying to understand from them what made them successful and do my homework that way. I read a couple books. And then it really started that a couple weeks out, emailing friends and family and saying, hey, we're gonna have this campaign. I don't expect or even want any of you to buy a bike or back for a bike or even back us. But what I do need every single one of you to do is to put this printout up at work by the water cooler, and I need every single one of you to go on social media the day we launch and push it. We also did, at the last minute, invest in some PR, which was one of the best decisions we made. And we did have a person who helped with PR that helped get the word out. But between friends and family and a couple of really nice articles, we got the word out, and that together with a amazing Kickstarter.
And can you just what was your base goal when you?
Our base goal was $30,000, and I knew that if we could raise $30,000 in a month, that we had enough to start the business. And we raised $550, so it was 18 times what we'd expected to, and never could have imagined. It actually gives me chills to think about, and the feeling that you have when something like that happens is just. I rank it up there with having a kid and getting married. And, it's one of those experiences in my life that I'll never forget, is realizing that your idea was well embraced. And it was really cool. Yeah.
And Kit, what about you guys? What did you guys do to get the word out?
Really similar, actually. So we interviewed a bunch of people who had done Kickstarter campaigns before. And one thing that kind of everyone told us was that you can't just put up a project and expect it to go viral. It actually takes a lot of work. So we, like Dave mentioned, also really, really, really encouraged friends and family to share. So we made it really easy for them and then for backers to share. We gave them template tweets, template Facebook posts, template emails, and just I think a lot of people really want to share, but just making it as easy as possible gets them over that hump. And then we also had lots of success with blogs and PR. So before we even launched, we came up with 150 different bloggers. We Google searched people who had written about Kickstarter projects before, people who had written about companies similar to us, people who had written about MIT startups, and just trying to figure out every single niche that we could. And we kind of segmented it. We looked at menswear bloggers, technology bloggers, design bloggers, travel bloggers. And then within the first 24 hours, emailed all of them. We realized that we were really resonating with design and technology. So for the next 30 days, really focused on those types of blogs. And then Kickstarter has really great analytics for creators. So we were really able to see all right, we got tons of backers from this type of article. Let's really focus on blogs that are really similar to this article.
Our story is very similar. We asked friends and family and former colleagues to give us that initial push. And we eventually also did kind of just simple PR and outreach to blogs. I would say the most helpful thing was when we reached out to our friends and family and colleagues, we didn't ask for a donation. We asked for just spreading the word. Our idea kind of was, you might not like this, but you probably know someone who likes it, so if you could just tell them, that would be great. And I think that really helped drive funds initially, which is, we come to realize, very important in showing the popularity in the campaign early on.
And Kit, now I want to talk to you a little bit about your, I know that now you guys have a company with many different products, pants, jackets, shirts, socks. And the two campaigns that you did was the initial one for the shirt and then one for the socks. So how do you see Kickstarter fitting into your guys' kind of larger strategy as a launch platform? What kind of projects do you think make sense for you guys to use the platform, and just how do you see it as kind of in that set of tools?
Yeah, so I think when we did our first project, one thing that we didn't really know would be so powerful was the extremely loyal and supportive backer community. So we're kind of talking even before this panel, but I think that the Kickstarter backers are some of your most supportive, your most engaged, and they're really going to be the ones that are spreading the word, telling people. And to be able to get like 3,000 backers that are so invested in your company was just invaluable for us. The second one was just the amount of feedback that you get from launching a new product through Kickstarter. So when we first started, we didn't really know like what colors we were going to offer, or what sizes we were going to offer, and just being able to have these people that were really vested in your company, really vested in your project, really vested in what you're doing, and feel like they're part of it was huge for feedback. So when we did kind of a totally different project, so we ended up growing and did a few different pieces of clothing, and then when we did something totally different, we did socks, and we realized like this is a totally new category for us. It's completely different than dress shirts or dress slacks, and we're not even sure, like, is socks the right way to go? Do we want to launch socks? So it kind of made sense for us to turn to Kickstarter and say, like, let's launch a project and get this backer community and get their feedback on it and sense out if it's like a category we want to expand into. And so for us now going forward, I think that whenever we would go to a new category or something a little bit more experimental, then Kickstarter is like an obvious place to kind of launch that.
Awesome. It's really where your community is. It's the first people who are interested in your idea so much that they're willing to give you money. So they're not only getting a product in return, but they're also willing to advocate for you each time you do anything, which is a really powerful thing.
Yeah.
And it's kind of overwhelming at first because all of a sudden you have fans almost, which is, and you're hopeful that that's how it's going to be, but actually seeing it is really cool.
And Matt, for you, I know you guys have a different strategy in terms of how you use Kickstarter in building your business now. So can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. Yeah. Our products are a little bit different than bicycles and clothing in that we kind of have we have one product that we can kind of iterate on and create new collections of. So we are basically using Kickstarter now to launch new collections and not necessarily brand new products or product categories. And again, that's great because we can go right to our community and offer the new products. And that being said, we also have a chance to experiment with a couple new products that might be a little bit different, and then we can see if that's something worth pursuing outside of Kickstarter on a web store and on wholesale and things like that.
Awesome. And David, I know you have a project coming up very soon, but I know you have also several projects in your larger portfolio, vision for your portfolio. Like, how do you think about where Kickstarter fits into your business?
For me, Kickstarter is bringing a really unique product to market. So, for example, we have a bike that we're coming out with very soon that's like our current bike, just some upgrades. And to me, it's an amazing bike. I love riding it. It's totally unique to what's in market, but it's not so unique from what we've already done. That's something we're going to put on our web store, and we're going to announce to our backers and to our community, but we're not doing a Kickstarter on. In about 2 weeks, we're doing a Kickstarter on a kid's bike, and I hope everyone here will help share it online. Is all I ask is you share it online. So I think not next week, the week after, we'll be launching our kid's bike, and it is a reimagination of children's bikes, training wheel bikes, so 2 to 6-year-old bikes. And so for me, as a designer, right, and an entrepreneur, I want to bring things to the Kickstarter community that are totally unique, and because to open molds and build totally unique products is really expensive, and we do need to validate it. And how many red bikes are we going to sell versus blue bikes? Or by the way, do we bring this to Kickstarter, and does the Kickstarter community not fund us because they don't like the idea? And if that happens, that's great, right? Because I didn't go spend $500,000 on getting inventory to find out that no one liked my idea. So it's really, we're bringing our most unique products to Kickstarter that we think we need to learn about, we need to get feedback on, we need to open expensive molds and tooling on, and that we think are totally different, and that are such a different design that it deserves a platform like Kickstarter to get that community feedback and community involvement.
And so just because you're talking about this kind of this expenses associated to creating new molds to bring a new product to life, how do you think about your funding goal for your campaigns? Like, how does that relate to what process do you go through to kind of figure out that?
That's a hard one because I'll say that I think that your funding goal, obviously whatever your funding goal is, if you get that, then you're committed to bring that product in. So your funding goal needs to be high enough that if you achieve it and just that you're going to bring this product to life. I think it also needs to be low enough that it's achievable. From everything I've read, people in general, and I'm not talking about the hardcore Kickstarter community, but I'm talking about people in general, like to support successful projects. And so you want to make your project look successful. So having a low enough goal that you know you can actually produce it well, because if you don't produce it well, that community you just built is ruined. But yet a low enough goal that you're hopeful that you can hit it and hopefully exceed it. So I think it's trying to find that balance of high and low, and it's a tough balance to find.
And do you guys, what are your guys' thoughts on this, on goal? Because that is something that, always comes up in conversations, and there is no easy answer.
Our goal was, our first Kickstarter goal was initially our break-even point. We were kind of treating it as just a project that we were gauging demand for. So we would have been happy to see some interest in break-even, but once we went beyond that, then it became clear that we had an actual proper business model that we could work with. But initially, we were just trying to break even.
And in terms of like, as you guys are now, building businesses and doing multiple projects, how do you think about, your community or your audience, your customers, however you want to call them? Like, how do you think about them? Because I think also when I talk to creators, we talk about how do you think about them on a campaign level for that specific campaign, but how do you bring those people through with you to multiple campaigns and to become, your customers on your own websites or on your own places in the world? Any of you can.
We believe our Kickstarters are early adopters. We believe they give us the most feedback. We believe that if we do things right, they're going to be the ones that are loudest in market saying, I love this product. We also believe that if we screw something up, they're going to tell us really quickly, and that we can't do that to them. So with us, even we're now almost a year since our last Kickstarter, every important piece of news that we deliver, we send to our Kickstarters first. Anytime we give a discount on a new product, we give a bigger discount to our Kickstarters. We try and really keep them as our insiders. We believe, and I believe, we're just so thankful for them because without them, we wouldn't have a business. I wouldn't have a business. They helped me achieve the dream of Priority Bicycles, and so I'm forever grateful to our first backers. And so anything we do that's of importance, they get first. They get the best deals. They get the inside information. They're our community. They help start the company.
Similar kind of things with giving discounts to our Kickstarter backers and giving them information earlier than other people get information. And we kind of do mention that in our subsequent campaigns that this is something that a reason to back us a second time is because all of our Kickstarter backers get these discounts, and we essentially say for life, you'll be forever on this list if you want to be as someone who will receive this discount on a product.
Yeah, totally agree. I think it's hilarious. Like, we're 3 years since our Kickstarter, and still whenever I meet anyone, like the first thing they'll tell me is like, I was your Kickstarter backer. So it's really cool, just like the amount of pride they have, and that it's like such a close-knit community it's really something special. I think when we launched, we were uncertain on if backers would be like loyal to us or if they would just be loyal to Kickstarter, whereas if they're going to just be buying the newest things on Kickstarter all the time, or if they're people that you can actually transition over to become lifelong customers. And I think that, for us at least, getting them really bought into the vision and the bigger concept and the spirit behind what you're doing and the passion, as well as the product, have been really instrumental into getting them kind of from Kickstarter backers to like lifelong customers. I think just like these guys talked about, but just honing that relationship, treating them like friends, and really valuing that they did get you off the ground goes a long way.
And Kit, just, I know you guys, I think, are the only ones that have a permanent retail store, and I mean, it's taken a while for you guys to get there. Can you talk a little bit about the journey that you guys had from, having a successful Kickstarter, or before that you were selling kind of, small number of shirts to friends? Like, how has that journey been as you kind of expanded your distribution channels, and what are some things that you've learned or any tips you have for people that are starting on that journey?
Yeah, I think we launched in a bubble because we did this amazing Kickstarter campaign and thought, wow, everyone's like so supportive, so willing to try a new product, so like open. And then kind of you come off Kickstarter and you're trying to be a sustainable business and you realize it's a lot harder, a lot more expensive. And so one thing that we've really been focused on for the past 3 years is I think the Kickstarter community is a really great early adopter community, and figuring out how to get to the next step of the chasm, like the early majority. And for us, that was a few things. That was not focusing so much on the technology. So we are a clothing brand, and I think that the Kickstarter community really loves the technology and loves that it's a new product. But then as you come off the early adopter curve, they really want to see that it's something that is similar to in the closet, or something that their boss, they wouldn't feel out of place wearing. So that was a big thing, is just working on how we convey the message, how we convey our design, and how we present ourselves. And then the other part was to realize that the early majority is obviously really comfortable buying online, but when you kind of expand that, a lot of people aren't as comfortable buying online. So we've started opening up retail stores, and have realized that that's getting a lot of people kind of to touch, to feel, and to try our product that had been interested in it for a while, but were nervous about buying clothing online. So I think, and then also just understanding how our customer evolved from the Kickstarter project to now. And I think that just realizing that it's a natural evolution, and that as a startup, you're always going to go through that phase, and your customer is always going to be changing and evolving, and being really in tune with your customer and talking to your customer is really going to help you understand who that customer is and how you can also as a company evolve.
And Matt, what about you guys? What way are you guys selling the product beyond your campaigns?
So one of the things that we did immediately after our first campaign was we had an idea to sell to museum gift shop stores, figuring that there would be a nice customer base there. So right away we reached out to a company that they specialize in working with museum gift shop stores. And so we kind of started to solidify that relationship early on, which has been really good as far as wholesale goes. And then we also have reached out just kind of with cold calls to other boutique stores or other museums that aren't necessarily picked up by this specific company. So that's kind of our wholesale model. And then we also have our web store, which does well. We're very happy with. And then we do a couple of events like craft shows and actually sell in person, which, similar to Kit's experience with opening a store, it is a different customer who is actually seeing the thing and feeling the thing, as opposed to just seeing pictures and video of it. So it's kind of you're always having to keep finding your new customer base.
And David, I know you guys primarily sell your bikes direct. What are the main challenges that you guys face being a direct seller?
Our products are basically being sold at wholesale, direct to consumer. So if you were to look at a bike shop with a comparable spec, somewhat comparable to ours, it'd be double the price. And so the good news is that we have a more affordable product. The bad news is that we can't sell it through retailers. We just physically can't. The margin's not there. So we do have people all the time say, hey, I love everything I read about your bike, but I'm not buying one until I try it. And we don't have a good answer. Our bikes are geared towards people that are comfortable buying it online. If they don't like it, they return it. We take them back for any reason. We've gone to different parts of the country and done 3-hour test ride events where we hang out at a hotel or a bar and invite people to come, and those are wildly successful for us. And when we come, we often get a bunch of Kickstarters that ride their bikes up, and they're really, really proud, and we love them, because that's exactly what you want at a test ride event, is a bunch of your customers there that are loud and proud that they have your bike, so it's great. We currently have a pop-up store on 246 Mott at Prince Street for the month of May, which we're sharing with another Kickstarter company called This Is Ground. They make leather accessories. It's been a great experience so far this month. And I'll give a shameless plug that Saturday we're having free booze and tacos from 12 to 5. But it's been good. It's hard being an online-only brand, but I think that was the way our model was built. We like the pop-up. We like doing these stores. Our model was built as an online-only store, and our customer does realize they're getting a better value because of it. And as much as we have a lot of people that ask us to go a different direction, the more we stick to just selling online, the more successful we are.
I mean, talking to all three of you, you guys all seem to have very passionate customer bases, backer bases. Can you talk a little bit about how you ensure that they remain? I mean, while the campaign is running, what do you do to keep them engaged and keep them happy? But then also, after the campaign is done, like, how do you keep that level of engagement? Let's start with you.
Yeah, so during the campaign, you don't sleep. I mean, and I know every Kickstarter I interviewed told me that. And I thought that they were overestimating the work, and they weren't. Yeah, you don't sleep. You want every single last customer to be answered, and to be answered politely, and to be grateful that they're even asking questions, right? And so we engage with our backers a lot. We try and respond to every email we get within an hour, and we make everything right by everybody. I'd love to say that 100% of the bikes that ship out are perfect. Really, they are. When they ship out of our warehouse, I believe 100% are perfect, but our good friends at UPS often don't help in making sure they're delivered perfectly. And so, not to blame UPS, but products get delivered and they're not always positive. And we live in an age where people just get on Twitter, get on Facebook, and immediately want to go to assume that we're not going to take care of it, right? And so what we do is we ensure 100% customer satisfaction, no matter what it takes, no matter what it costs. And I'm proud to say that if you read any review you can find anywhere on us, it's going to be positive, because even when someone's had a bad experience, we make it positive. We think with our backers, especially since they're such early adopters, we need to just guarantee a great experience. And that comes, I think, as founders. I mean, it's probably taken years off all of our lives, but it's also what makes it special, and what makes us people so loud and proud about the product. So give great customer service and stand behind your product 100%.
Yeah, so I think bad experiences are actually a really good opportunity to kind of turn around and make a customer really, really, really happy, and even happier than he would be if he just got a normal experience. So we really try to take every bad experience and use it as an opportunity to make that person an even bigger advocate. And I think that Kickstarter is really cool, because that 30 days was kind of a huge crash course in customer service, customer engagement, was a crash course in everything. But one thing that we really, really learned was just how far transparency goes, treating every backer and customer like they're your friend, and like how you would want to be treated. And then, just sticking by your products and taking pride in your work, showing that to your backers, and being really transparent and making sure that you try to fix anything has gone a really long way for us.
We were talking earlier that most of the experiences and interacting with the backers are overwhelmingly positive, and it feels really good to get great feedback from people. But when there is a negative experience with a shipment or something, those are the ones that stick with you the most. The negative ones hit you way harder than the positive ones do. So it is kind of a tricky balance in making sure that you're making all of your customers happy, and it is an absolute crash course in customer service. But I feel like it is a really good opportunity to turn someone who maybe would write a mean tweet on Twitter or something, or even just tell their friends that they had a negative experience. If you make it right for them, then they're vocal anyway, so they will kind of become advocates for you. And it just with simple things, it doesn't take too much to make someone happy.
And I mean, all three of you now have kind of an established, production and fulfillment process. I know that that's a real pain point for a lot of creators. It's something that takes a lot of work to do that. So Matt, I just wanted to ask you, can you talk a little bit about the process of setting that up for you and some of the challenges that you faced along the way?
As far as fulfillment of orders
or both production and fulfillment. Wherever you think you had the most difficult time.
Sure. As far as production, we've been fairly happy. We've had some delays that were out of our control. We had weather-related delays. We had a package that was physically stolen from us. So, basically, right off the UPS truck, someone stole a giant shipment. So we had to explain to our backers that there was going to be a small delay of those particular skulls. But we did find that most people are very understanding when stuff like that happens, especially immediately after your Kickstarter. Delays are really, they're just kind of they happen no matter how hard you try, something weird is going to happen. But we were able to get, I would say, 90% of our shipments out on time, and I think our customers really appreciated that. As far as fulfillment, we're still kind of a basement operation for lack of a better word. So we still use stamps.com to do all of our shipping, which has been great. Google Docs they're the best. I am a very firm believer in using a lot of Google Docs to organize your backer list and everything. But after the first Kickstarter, it was kind of a learning curve, but that makes each Kickstarter after that a lot easier.
And is there anything you recommend in terms of the work to set up from the, did you guys were you very methodical and we're trying to set up a process that's going to be ongoing and it's going to support these future collections?
Well, so after each campaign, you send out a backer survey. So one thing I would suggest is to make sure that you capture people's email addresses and ask if they want to be on a mailing list, if they want to opt in for a mailing list. But having their email address, then you can, if there are issues with anything in the address that they put down, or if there's a delay or something, you can email them directly as opposed to emailing them through Kickstarter, which they might be a lot faster to respond on their personal email address. But other than that, I can't think of anything right now.
And David, I know you have a pretty complex production process that spans, borders. So can you talk a little bit about, your process for setting that up and just how important that's been, or also challenges that you faced?
Yeah, so I worked in the bike industry, and I worked for some major bike suppliers before going into software. And in software, I did large-scale ERP, or business management systems, and supply chain management systems. And so really setting up Priority was taking those two areas that I'd done in my life and putting them together. So I interviewed 17 manufacturers, narrowed it from 5 to 3 to 1.
And did you do that all before launching your first campaign, or was that something as you were...
During. So yeah, at the point that we launched our first campaign, we were at prototypes from 3 different factories, and during our campaign, we narrowed it from 3 to 1. So it literally went from 17 to 1 primary manufacturer. And yeah, during the campaign, we still had we were between the 3. At the same time, we had to set up the systems because we knew we had to deal with high volume, and in order to be consumer direct and to keep margins low, we needed to keep touch points low as well. So we set up automated systems where when you order a bike on our website, it goes to our warehouse and a label prints, and a guy shoves it in a box and shoves it on a UPS truck. And unless you have a problem, we're not going to hear from you unless it's a satisfaction survey or you contact us. So it's a highly automated operation. Again, we do operate off pretty slim margins in our industry. So we've had to set up a very automated supply chain. It takes us 120 to 160 days to get products, so we have to have really tight forecasting. It's been a lot of work. It requires a huge education, international trade and tariffs and duties, and working with shipping partners, both for inbound ocean freight and outbound air and ground freight, and to have systems. The systems to keep track of it all and make sure that you don't ship someone the wrong colored bike. We did, for our Kickstarter fulfillment to speed things up, we used our own warehouse for half, and we used a third-party warehouse for half. And our third-party warehouse confused the men's and women's bikes, and right at Christmas, sent about 60 men women's bikes and 60 women men's bikes. And little things like that are just a giant ripple in a company that you're trying to provide amazing customer service for. So making sure that everybody's using the right systems and that there's safeguards in place is more work than I can ever even describe, but is all worth it once it's all working and up.
Well, as much as I'd love to continue asking you guys questions, I do want to open it up for the audience to ask some questions so that we can, have some time to give you guys a chance to. So there's people going to bring a microphone. So the gentleman in the second row.
Hey, so it sounds like most of you guys have launched multiple projects. How much did the time from which your project shipped to the start of the next project play into your strategy? How long did you wait for backers to receive that product, to get their feedback, to launch the second? And did any of you have experiences with bad feedback from customers, and did that alter the way in which you launched your next campaign?
To answer your first question, I would say timing was, we introduced other products in between we introduced other products in between our Kickstarters. And so there wasn't really much of a thought of when we were or how much time we would allow between Kickstarters. It was more like when we were ready to launch a new collection, a larger scale collection. And then next Kickstarter that we do, I think we'll do similar timing as far as it ideally could become a yearly thing that we do at around the same time. And that way we could kind of say, it's that time again, it's that time of year again to launch our new collection or something like that.
But none of you launched campaigns before that product had been shipped or received, right?
No.
It'd be too much work.
Yeah.
As small teams, you want to get your stuff out and make your backers really happy before you ask for their help again.
Hey, can you talk about some of the collaboration that happened ahead of launching your product? Maybe you're a designer and you needed a business brain, or maybe you're a business brain and a designer, but you needed a prototyping brain. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so our founding team is kind of design, operations, and business. So I think that we had a really good founding team kind of for Kickstarter. And then, as I was talking about, we realized that as we try to make this transition from kind of a tech product company to a fashion company, we wanted to bring someone with fashion expertise on board. So we ended up hiring a head designer who had been head of design at Theory, Brooks Brothers, and Eddie Bauer. And he's amazing and really bought into what we do. And I think that kind of going through the Kickstarter process, seeing like where our gaps in the founding team were, and really trying to hire like the best that we could to really fill those gaps was really a good process for us.
We worked with a friend to help us just make the copy as solid as possible, and we worked with another friend to help us do our video. And they, since then, have actually formed kind of a formal crowdfunding consultancy. They're called Launchpack, and they're great. So we used them for our second Kickstarter, and we'll use them again. They do really good work. So.
Is the early backer a good indicator? Is it a good indication whether the average consumer is going to be interested in the product? Or is that a different person? The concern would be that, it seems like a really good idea. You produce for the mass market, but really the appeal is only to the really excitable early adopter.
I think we found it was a little different. I mean, it's unrealistic to think that your month of Kickstarter is just a month of amazingness, if you will, with all hope. And then the next month, it's unrealistic to think it would be anywhere near as amazing, right? You have to kind of build back up, and of course you have to then have inventory. But we found a lot of it for us depends on press and depends on the type of press. So as an online-only company with no storefront, we're only as relevant as either people talking about us or being in media. So it was interesting, the sizes and colors and the styles that people bought on Kickstarter. We then were in a magazine that probably catered to a little bit of an older and male demographic, and the sizes and colors were different, right? And then we were in a magazine that was younger in tech, and the sizes and colors and styles were much more similar to Kickstarter. And whereas one magazine we got a ton of emails and another we got a ton of phone calls. So it just depends on the demographic. Kickstarter does have, to some degree, a demographic. You could probably talk more about that. But I think it is a very good indication of, does the world like your idea? I think early adopters are the ones that are willing to take a risk and read no reviews and say, I'm going to get this. I'm going to back this company because I think they have a good idea, and I'm going to do it with no reviews on good faith. Most of the world wants to wait for reviews to be out.
Our product is a little more of a niche product, so you either if you like it or you don't. So one of our challenges after our Kickstarter was how to then reach out to people that we know would be interested in our product. Kickstarter gave us like a nice soapbox to really give a good presentation and get a lot of people to see our product. So from there, we now have to continue to find outlets that are going to help us market to the right kind of person.
I have a question about the sort of post-Kickstarter life and the business model. So it sounds to me like you guys have fairly different approaches. There's an online-only model, there's a retail model, there's a wholesale, but a wholesale after that. So I was wondering, between these three approaches, obviously the products are very different, but have you figured out whether that's sort of the way going forward, or is there a mix and match between these three? Or in any case, if you could talk a little bit about that, and how do you kind of see the business growing forward through any of these models, or a combination thereof, maybe?
I think for us, we know that we have to have some retail component. We know that we can't, we're certainly happiest selling online, but we also know that, listen, people want to, it's very reasonable to want to ride a bike before you buy it. So we're working on forming partnerships with hotels and coffee shops where people can try the bike, but yet we still sell it consumer direct, right? So, and then maybe we give them a commission. So we're working on different models. We're working on new models that we can sell through retail. So I think it's having a core model and finding ways to dip your toes into other ways. I mean, no matter what product you're selling, there's no question that consumer direct is going to bring you the most profit and bring your customer the most value. I don't think there's anyone that'll argue that. But we still live in a world where people like to touch things, and so for us, it's before they buy it. So for us, it's trying to figure out how to minimally get a little bit of both.
Yeah, we kind of have tested everything. So we do a lot of testing. And we tested wholesale and had like maybe 12 accounts and realized a few things. One, it was really hard to manage all these smaller accounts. And B, there's no control in how they present your company. So we had customers that would come to us and say, oh, I thought you guys only made like golf clothing. We're like, no, where'd you hear that? Like at the store. So just having no control and the difficulty. And it was hard for us to get into wholesale because wholesale in clothing is pretty traditional, and they like traditional clothing. They like to buy every single season. They like you to change colors every single season. And that kind of goes against our values, which is like create timeless pieces that are going to last customers for years, not something they would have to buy every quarter. So that didn't really work for us. We decided to cut that. And then we've found a lot of success with retail. So similarly, we started that as tests. So we did like day-long pop-ups or week-long pop-ups or a month-long pop-up, and really tried to hone in like what cities does our store resonate in, what kind of messaging works in the store, how do we train employees to work the store and tell our message, how do we like get the operations in place. And we found a lot of success both. And the great thing about retail for us is a really good way to acquire new customers. So So we found a lot of the people that come into our retail store are just walking by or had heard about us but didn't want to buy online. So it's like a really great marketing channel and sustainable. And so we're focusing this year and next year on like expanding our retail presence.
We have we always talk about separate strategies for each of our revenue streams. So it's being really aware of what's going to work for each and experimenting differently with retail and wholesale and even in-person sales. I would say that that's when branding becomes really important, because ideally we would want someone who buys one of our products in a museum gift shop to then buy the next one online, or at least drive traffic to our website from it. So if they don't see the logo, or if they don't see the website, then they can't really do that. So we really try to focus on branding and making sure that people equate Fire and Bone with this type of jewelry, and then they can kind of tell their friends, check out this Fire and Bone skull instead of this, check out this generic animal skull that I got.
So I was wondering if you guys could talk about times when you found it advantageous to seek funding from other sources besides Kickstarter. At what points in the process you felt like you needed to do that, and where you had success or maybe not so much success doing that?
Yeah, so like I mentioned, when we were starting our Kickstarter, we were starting to raise kind of a friends, family round. And everyone said no. And then kind of as soon as they saw our success at Kickstarter, a lot of those same investors came back and said, yeah, like we want to invest in you. And so we ended up raising that round and doing our Kickstarter, which was actually really good for us because we ended up losing money on our Kickstarter campaign. And then we ended up raising another like $2 million of, I don't know what you call it, angel round about a year and a half later. So which is not a lot of money for like clothing companies. But we found like the mix of both Kickstarter, launching products, and also kind of traditional funding, and then also running things like pretty lean has been a really good like mix for us.
Hi, I was just wondering, because now you've all launched several products, whether like some on Kickstarter, some not on Kickstarter, and I was wondering, from doing all these launches, if there's any sort of like unconventional things that you've done, that you've tried, like doing the test rides, for example, or like other things that you've done that have worked really, really well, but sort of aren't something that everyone else is doing. And along with that, I was sort of curious, in all these launches, Kickstarter or otherwise, how much you're using analytics to like sort of keep track of how effective these efforts are.
We haven't done too much outlandish things. We would like to do a lot more experimentation, maybe for our next Kickstarter, but one of the challenges is kind of staying true to what we know works while still making it feel like new and fresh and cool ideas. So I guess to answer your question, we haven't really done too much that's outside the normal social media, reaching out to blogs.
Yeah, and especially with you guys, where both the products are something people like try on their bodies. I was wondering if there's, especially during your launches now, if you're in the launch strategy making different ways for people to try them and like pushing it somehow or other, like the test rides, or I don't know if there's like some way people, I don't know, before you had the stores that you were pushing people to try on the clothes or the socks or whatever during the campaigns.
We're hyper-focused on analytics, so we analyze our website and where the traffic's coming from every day. We analyze where every single sale came from, what their click pattern was, how many times they were on the site, how long they spent on the site. So we're pretty dialed. We're numbers people. But during the campaign, every weekend we held test rides in New York, but we wish we could do them everywhere. Now, we're working with expanding part of our business is our fleet services. So we have a lot of bicycle rental companies that are using our bikes because they're really bulletproof, and we have a lot of hotels that are using our bikes because they're really bulletproof. And so we're trying to work with those partners to also host test rides, and they're being really receptive to it. But during the campaign, I think you'll find a lot of people that do want to touch, if it's a product, they want to touch the product. And so finding ways to do it. But if you're in New York, you're going to have backers in California, and you can't go out there every day. And so depending on the product, if I could go back in time and in a perfect world, the handmade first samples were just so expensive. If we could have had 5 sets of samples in 5 key cities where we had 5 key people, that would have been amazing. And we would have driven more revenue because of it, but it would have been impossible too, just given our size and our ability to afford something like that. So I think just doing everything you can to get the product out there, especially during your Kickstarter, is key, but also assuming that you're as broke as I think we all were when we were starting, that it's also realizing that resources are limited.
Yeah, this dovetails a little bit with the last question. I'm just wondering to what extent and what tools you use to manage sort of the customer relationship. I mean, a lot of you talked about your Kickstarters. I imagine a lot of those people, went on to buy additional products, make suggestions, call you. To what extent do you know who these people are, and how do you keep track of all that information? What tools are you using?
We use something called Zendesk for a lot of our customer service, and basically, if any customer emails come in, it goes in this system, and it's really easy to answer and search for other emails. We also use NPS, which is Net Promoter Score, which basically is like on a scale of 0 to 10, how happy are you with us? We also follow up with all customers like 2 weeks after they make a purchase and just say like, hey, just checking in, let us know if there's anything you want. And we found that we can catch a lot of problems that way. So people will say like, oh, I've been meaning to email you, it doesn't fit. So being able to like catch that problem before they get to be unhappy. And then lastly, we focus a lot on the psychographic rather than demographic. So we'll reach out to customers a lot and do surveys just like, what do you do at 2 p.m. on a Tuesday? What do you do on Saturday? What's one thing that motivates you? What do you love? And we found that that's a really good way for us to really understand our customers, what drives them, what are their values, and really important for us in keeping to understand like how we talk to them and relate to them.
We use Microsoft Dynamics for our back end, and that really controls every single financial transaction and every dollar and penny and piece of inventory, and it's a great tool. And then we use desk.com by Salesforce for our customer service, and that brings in every phone call, every email, every tweet, every Facebook, every Instagram, everything into a central place where it can route it to the best person to answer it. We do have something in there called canned responses, which make our life easier because if there's a standard answer, we can use it, though we're also really big on never just using a canned response and making sure that, we are humans and we ask how the weather in Cleveland is, and we will actually see that someone was a Kickstarter backer, and if they have a question, we always address them as a backer and thank them for their backing versus someone who bought last week. So try and make it really, use tools to automate the process, and Desk and Microsoft Dynamics really help us automate the process, but also still keep it really personal so people don't feel like we're using systems, even though without these systems, there's no way we'd be able to handle the volume.
I just want to let you guys know we have time for 2 more questions.
So for those of us who don't have experience in supply chain management, who don't have as sophisticated an automation system as you do at Priority Bikes, how did you guys learn about inventory and keeping track of customers and sort of all the maybe boring aspect of running a business, keeping all the money in check and everything like that?
For us, it really was like our Kickstarter campaign made us really have to figure out how to do a lot of different things. And for a lot of things, it really is as simple as like, okay, we need to be aware of this. And you Google that problem, and then you start to educate yourself on how to do that. But you kind of only do it when it comes up, or if you're thinking about doing it later on down the road. It's not necessarily something you have to know going into launching a campaign or a company. I would say you're going to figure it out one way or the other, or either using the resources that you have, friends, family, former colleagues, you can talk to help you out. That's one of the things I would really recommend, is not getting caught up in all of the logistics of it, because you first want to make sure you have a good product, and you want to make sure you have demand for the product. And you can be thinking about, what happens later on, but you'll burn out really fast if you start planning for everything.
Yeah, I think that's good advice.
We early on used Squarespace, which is really affordable. It automates a lot of what we do in our now bigger systems, and if we could, we'd probably still be on it. It's a great tool. It's about $30 a month, and it can do 90% of what you need to as a new company, and it's really easy to learn. So check out Squarespace. They're a New York-based company too. Big fan.
MIT is also about to start a free course on supply chain management on May 28th, online edX, MIT supply chain management course.
That's awesome.
Cool.
I will take that course.
All right, one last question.
So I was just wondering, what was the breaking point? Was Kickstarter the breaking point for you guys to quit your day jobs, or had you already made that decision and just jumped nose? Did you just dive right into it?
Yeah, absolutely. So like I mentioned, we launched it. Me and one of my co-founders is in business school, and we joined up with two other co-founders that were in mechanical and engineering schools. And we launched it like the summer between our 2 years, and ended up dropping out of business school because suddenly we had thousands of orders to fulfill and had no idea how to do that. So I think that's really why Kickstarter was really great for us, is because we really realized, like, oh, this is something we really want to devote our lives to. We do want to drop out of school. We do really want to focus on this. And it is something that people want, so it can be a viable business. So I think that for getting that validation for us was part of the reason why we were able to kind of go all in.
We all kind of had quit our jobs for other reasons and then came together afterwards. So it wasn't like a decision that we were jumping ship or anything. It was just, we had the free time now, let's do it.
And we were a mix. I quit my job first, but I have a co-founder who spent his nights and weekends during our campaign. And then once the campaign was over and we realized, wow, we have a business, then he quit. So.
Well, thank you very much to the three guests who have joined us tonight, and thank all of you for